Hey everyone, and welcome back to the How to Write a Book podcast. If you are just joining us, so this is part of a series for November 2023. And if you are a longtime fan of this show, you know that every November we here at the How to Write a Book podcast, we will do a whole month-long series that's dedicated to every single day of NaNoWriMo. So in the past, we have done prompts, we've done inspiration, we've done like motivational quotes. And so for this season, we're going to be having guest speakers and authors, traditionally published authors, self-published, all kinds of amazing people on the show. So welcome to one of these episodes. In today's episodes, we're going to be talking to Alledria Hurt, who is a prolific author, has written 15 novels and had just recently published an anthology as well called Warped Lens. What's interesting about Allie is that she not only has this mentality of how to face your writing challenges, but she has a really interesting background as far as not just tackling the blank page, but taking in critique, feedback, and really using that to spur her writing forward. I think it was a really great chat. I hope that you enjoy it as well. And of course, enjoy the show. Thank you.
Welcome to the How to Write a Book podcast, the show that helps you plan, write, and publish your book, even if you're a beginner or just feel like one. Now, for your host, she's written over a dozen books and helps others bring their books to life. Here she is, Maciel.
Thank you for listening to the How to Write a Book podcast. Now, I want to give a special announcement. So, November is your month of transformation. Get a 1-hour coaching session with me by choosing any of the 3 options, or all 3. Option 1, join our Patreon for $1. Option 2, book a $1 coaching session on coach.me. Option 3, leave an Apple Podcasts review. Send a screenshot to my email and get a coaching spot. Now, you can totally do all 3 and you'll get 3 hours of coaching. You can find all of the links to the Patreon, the coach.me, and my email in the show notes. Act fast. This offer is only valid in November to celebrate National Novel Writing Month. All right, writers, go ahead, get to it, and we'll see you soon. Okay, and here we go. All right. Welcome to the How to Write a Book podcast. I'm your host, Maciel Valenzuela Castañeda. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we have a special guest, Alledria Hurt. Oh my gosh, I'm super happy to have you here. You are the author of 15 novels. A little bit about you: born in Pennsylvania, raised in like German towns. You now work at a metaphysical shop. That sounds amazing. First of all, thank you so much for being here. We're really happy to have you.
Thank you, Masi, for having me on. So as you said, I am the author of quite a few novels at this point. I have written short stories that have been both in zines and in anthologies. I have had a couple of traditionally published pieces. I have done pretty well for myself, even while working, because I have worked my entire career working both as a writer and as a member of the American workforce. So that's kind of been my jam. And I think we're coming into National Novel Writing Month again this year, which is like, yes, rock on. Yeah. I have done National Novel Writing Month since 2005. And actually, several of my novels have actually seen their first iteration during National Novel Writing Month. So
I love it.
They're very lucky in that respect.
Oh my gosh, Allie, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say, like, it's such a privilege to have you here, because, when we connected, I was like, oh, okay, you've got like 3 novels under your belt. Very cool. Short story. Then we kind of chat before this and you hit me with 15 novels. And I was like, yes, this is amazing, because the show, it's about how to overcome, like really like saying like, hey, writer's block, nah, my books, my message, they matter. I'm ecstatic, and this is awesome. This is so great. And just like you said, right in time for National Novel Writing Month, which was like something that I connected with you with. I was like, yeah, I love NaNoWriMo. I love that, it's reached you, it's reached me, it's reached how many, like hundreds of thousands of people. So
Yeah.
I would love to just talk a little bit about so how did you get started, right? Was that your NaNoWriMo, or were you a writer before that? What's your origin story?
My origin story is literally I started out in text-based RP, text-based role play online with several friends of mine. And one of them, my friend D.E. Morris of the Heritage series, she knew about NaNoWriMo before I did.
Oh.
So in 2005, she sends me this AIM message. I'm dating myself, but she sends me this AIM message and she says, I bet you could write a book. And at the time, I had never written anything longer than a short story.
Oh, cool.
So I'd never written anything longer than a short story. I didn't think I could. Mm-hmm. And then she introduces me to National Novel Writing Month and she says, I want you to do this. And I'm like, I don't think I can. And she's like, I challenge you to do this. And I'm like, okay, bet. Let's do it.
Do it.
So in 2005, I wrote my first book, 50,000 words across 30 days. And that is not one that I have ever published because it was real rough. It was real rough. It was a first effort. And it was really it was really kind of heart-wrenching because it was dealing with a lot of my personal issues.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, okay, this book does not need to see the light of day while I'm still alive. I'm going to put this in a trunk. This is literally a trunk novel. It is never going to see the light of day. But It was my first one and it broke the seal. Yeah. So that I actually felt like I could do it. And then, of course, I went to grad school the next year in 2006. I did not complete NaNoWriMo in 2006, but I went on to complete it between like 2007 and I think I've done it almost every year since 2007.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. So you finish for sure a novel every year during November and more.
Yes.
That's amazing. Now, how would you say your writing is, compared to that first, that first rough one, which I totally get. That one never will see the light of day. Hit in the head with a shovel. How do you feel like your writing has improved since then?
I think my writing has improved a lot. I look back on the stuff that I wrote 10 years ago and I'm like, wow, whoa. Yeah. And I published some of this.
I feel that way too. I'm like, maybe I should. Where should this go?
It's like, oh, and I published some of this and it has my actual name on it. Okay.
Yeah. I've been there.
But of course you have to go back and you either you grow or you die. That is the way it works. Either you continue to grow as a writer or you stagnate and you repeat the same stuff over and over again. So in order for me to be able to keep going, this is something that some of my proteges that I've had over the years have had a hard time dealing with, is that you really have to keep going. You can't rehash the same book over and over again. You have to, you eventually have to stop editing. Mm-hmm. You have to push it out the door. Yeah. Because otherwise you're going to sit there and you're never going to publish it.
Right.
Because you're going to be too scared. And it's like, okay, yes, somebody's going to look at this and they're going to call it trash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's okay, because that just means it wasn't for them.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And just going back to, you're either like writing or you're growing or you're dying, right? Is that a specific mantra that you have just for writing, or is that something you adopted throughout your life? That's like really powerful.
Actually, I picked it up from a movie called Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, I've never seen it. I know, but
Oh, honey, it is the greatest message of hope ever.
yeah.
For it to have come from a Stephen King short story, a lot of people, they automatically assume it's Stephen King short story. It's obviously going to be gory or scary or something like that. No, he actually has some really good short stories that don't deal with blood, guts, gore, or anything.
Yeah.
And Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption, which is the actual name of the story, is the basis for the Shawshank Redemption, and it has, other than the fact that 2 people get shot in it, there's not a whole lot of blood in it.
Yeah. Didn't he also write The Green Mile?
Yes.
Yeah. So he does have that kind of, I would say that's a certain taste of his when he goes, like, I think more short form, more reality. Yeah. And that's great. Now I'm probably just lost like all my listeners now that they know I haven't watched the Shawshank Redemption. I'm just going to put that out there. That's my, the slap on the wrist. But no, that's super great. And so you've carried that through your writing, I'm guessing through life. That's awesome.
The quote is, "Get busy living or get busy dying."
Oh, sick. Yeah. Oh, I could feel that. Oh my gosh. It's so true. And clearly you've done that. You've been there. I mean, let's go back to like, what could have stopped you? Your fears, or like, oh no, this sucks, or someone says it's trash. Did you encounter that along your writing journey?
I encountered that from my own internal critic.
Mm-hmm.
My own internal critic is, as the saying goes, you are your own worst critic. Mm-hmm. My critic has got razor sharp fangs.
Damn. Yeah.
It is not, it ain't playing, and it'll tell me this is absolutely not worth publishing. Mm-hmm. This is not worth sending out to an editor. This is not worth it. And I just have to look it in the face and go, sure, you can think that. I'm going to hit send anyway, but I'm sure you can think that.
Yeah. Like, publish in your face.
Yes. Because literally, if you let the internal critic decide things for you, mm-hmm. it's going to decide things to hold you in a box. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but boxes are small, and I don't intend to live in a box.
Yeah, you're right. I love that. That's so true.
But yeah, that's the thing that some of the newer writers that I have both learned from and taught over time have a tendency to over edit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, okay, at some point there's the law of diminishing returns. You have to understand that at some point, if you don't publish it, you're just going to polish it till there's nothing there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then you're just removing commas and putting commas back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not good for you. It's not good for your work. It's not good for your self-esteem, because you're telling yourself that you're not good enough when there might be somebody out there where you are literally their next favorite author. But you have to publish in order for that to happen.
Yes. I love that. And that's something that, like, I also want to ask you. So, you faced it. You're like, all right, critic, your own internal critic, I'm going to say no to you. I'm going to publish, right? And now you're talking about like how if you don't publish, it kind of hurts your self-perception. So what's on the other side of that? You publish, and then what do you find, as a published author?
Well, I think it's Seth Godin who says that obscurity is the biggest thing that you really have to worry about. Either you say something worth being heard, or nobody hears you.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things you have to worry about. Yes, if you say something worth being heard, there's gonna be people who are gonna be like, you ain't got no right to no opinion. That opinion sucks.
Yeah.
But more and more, especially since the advent of online publishing, it's getting lost in the noise.
Mm-hmm.
You're more likely to not get anywhere, to get no eyes, to get nothing. And even that'll hurt you a good little bit because you're like, oh my God, my work is being disregarded. And it's like, no, it's not your work is being disregarded. It's your work is not being seen. And when your work isn't seen, sometimes that hurts you because you're like, well, I built it. Shouldn't they come? That's not how it is in this world anymore.
Right.
It used to work. It might have worked that way back when we were first starting this whole thing back in like 2011 or something. Mm-hmm. But that's not how it works anymore. Mm-hmm. Now you've got to get out there. You got to put some shoe leather behind it. You got to do the work to get out there and get eyeballs on your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's really interesting that you bring that up because, I mean, I see it the same way. Like, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, now it's so vast that, right, you kind of like, it's into the ether, it's into the space. At the same time, if you find that niche, if you find like that subgroup of people, because now there's niches and subgroups. Now it's not just the YA bookshelf. That's the only place you can get your reads. Now it's, Goodreads, Kindle, all these places. So you can find your people. So that's also the other good side of it. But to find those people, to have them find you, that can also be really intimidating for new writers and for published authors.
Yeah, it's as we go through what we're going through, the growing pains of the publishing world at this juncture, because I mean, ebooks change the way a lot of us read.
Yeah.
But it also, some of us doubled down on paper books.
Yeah.
So we didn't lose paper.
Right.
We added ebooks, and then we added audio, and now we've got added audio books on top of that, and you've got little niches of people in each section, because I know there are some of my readers who are just like, they want me to be on audio so bad. They want me to be on audio so bad because it's the way they read now.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as I can get it together to get myself on audio, I'm going to get myself on audio, because it's like, I got a little niche of people that are like, can we get your book? Can we hear your book? Mm-hmm. And I want to serve those people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. I love that you're really trying to, I guess, hone the community that you've been really raising and growing from your books. Mm-hmm. There's something that you said earlier. You said a couple of times. You said proteges. So just for a second, I want to just pivot the conversation and ask you, proteges. So do you also do like writing groups, tell me more about who are these people?
I do a little bit of, I've done a core writing group for probably about, God, have we been together 10 years now? I think so.
I love that.
So we've been together a while. So some of them have gone on to publish. Mm-hmm. Some of them are still working on publishing, and others have decided that writing is just going to be a hobby that they do when they have time. Mm-hmm. So these are all people, we're in different stages in our publishing life. I have published the most out of all of us, but the reality is that for most of us, we've kind of learned from each other and taught we've learned from each other. We've taught each other. And I'm kind of the one who goes, don't think about it so hard, just do it.
Yeah.
Don't think about it so hard. Yes, it does need a little bit of it needs a little bit of a push. It needs some elbow grease behind it, but don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Because that is a quick way to get into your own head and to get your fears out in front of you in a way that'll keep you from doing what you need to do.
Yeah. Oh, I love your approach to writing and publishing. I'm curious, were you always like this? Were you always just like, this is like, we're just going to face our fears? Or was this a journey, that you maybe made mistakes or faced things that you're like, all right, now I'm going to overcome this?
Other than the fact that I'm absolutely sure that sometimes I have jumped the gun and published things that probably shouldn't have been published and need to be pulled down and reworked. Other than that, that's pretty much where it's been for me, is that I put out my first short story collection in 2014, and that was my first foray into e-publishing. And I just did it on a whim because I was like, I have 5 short stories. I can slap them together in a book. And a friend of mine built a cover for me, and there it went. Nice. Off it goes. Object Stories of Things has been out since 2014. And even though I probably could have pulled it down and gotten it a new cover, I haven't really worried about it because the point of it was the experiment.
Yeah.
So while I have put more money into some of the other stuff that I've done, like changing covers and looking at actual data on them, certain things have just been allowed to sit. And it just sits there as a monument to the fact that I hit publish the first time and I've been running ever since.
Yeah.
Now last year I hit the proverbial wall. I burned out because I let my fear get out in front of me. I let my fears get out in front of me because I said that I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I realized about 3 months later that the gremlins are not allowed to live in my head rent-free.
Yeah.
That is something that I learned from a friend of mine. We call our plot bunnies and our various little creatures up in our head, we call them gremlins, and the gremlins are not allowed to live in your head rent-free. So regardless of whatever else is happening, I have to keep writing because eventually the gremlins will pay for themselves.
That is so cool. I love that. So did that come from NaNoWriMo? You and your friend? That stuck. I love that. Any more backstory to that?
NaNoWriMo is actually how I met my core writing group.
Nice. Yeah.
Down here in Savannah, Georgia, we have at least one municipal liaison a year. I think this year we've got 3, but
sick.
We've always had at least one. And I started going to the in-person meetups probably 10, 11 years ago. And I met several of the people who would become my friends and who have stayed my friends over the course of this journey that I've been on.
Nice.
I think it was Amethyst Raven who sent me a picture of the two of us sitting at one of our first write-ins.
Oh, I love that.
And we were just like, her comment is, such babies.
Youngins.
Because we were so much younger back then, and we had such stars in our eyes about the whole thing, and it was... Yeah. And it was still early enough in the whole, because 30 days 30 days sometimes seems like a long time. Sometimes it seems really short.
Yeah.
And when you're slogging through a project, sometimes it both seems very short and very long at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh. I feel that.
Yeah. Well, it's like I have developed a little bit of a challenge with myself to see how fast I can get to 50,000 words.
Oh, okay, cool. What's
My current record is to be able to do it in 19 days.
Oh, sick. Oh, I love that. So
I can probably do it in less now, but the last time I clocked myself, it took me 19 days.
Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I love that. And just a little bit, like, what's your writing routine during this time? Like during this, like, hecka crunch?
When I do the nano crunch, I usually try to get a day, if not a full day, 2 days ahead.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that if I run into a situation where I've got to take a day off, I'm not behind.
Yeah.
So, but I've also learned that I can write 5,000 words at a click.
Nice.
So if I get behind, I can still catch up.
Yeah. You have like that buffer.
Yeah. So I try to keep a buffer, and if I can't keep a buffer, then I sit down on my day off and I catch up, and then I get ahead again.
Nice. Yeah.
Because I realized that the only way to lose Nano is to just completely give up.
Yeah. Literally, yeah.
Because the reality is, even if you don't get to 50,000 words in 30 days, if you can get a consistent habit going on, you have won.
Yeah. I agree. Absolutely. It's about getting back into it or starting it, getting that spark, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever say to my other Nano peeps is, do not publish that immediately after you finish it.
Published. This is a masterpiece. Done.
Yeah, do not do that. Do at least a read through to make sure there's no like egregious plot holes, or like you didn't change POVs or tenses in the middle of the thing, because Lord knows we will do that.
I'm guilty. Yep.
It's like, at least give it a read through before you hit publish.
Just read it at least. Mine, you can't even understand mine. So like mine needs like, that's hard elbow grease. I got to go in and like
work on it.
Work on it.
Yeah.
Totally. I love that. Man, your style, your approach to writing and publishing, it's really inspirational, because it's really like kind of just saying, go for it, believe, no stress about it. Like, it's all going to be okay. I love that you also acknowledge that those other books, they're up there, and maybe they, shouldn't be up there. I know what you mean. But you're like, hey, it's a testament that I did it. That's super great. That's inspiring, because some people are like terrified to push that button.
Yeah. A lot of people, they, like I said, they let their fear get out ahead of them.
Yeah.
And if your fears are out there ahead of you, if you're not taking them down as you go, they're going to stay out there, and they're going to ambush you every chance they get.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that like the gremlins are, they'll throw anything at you. They'll throw everything at you. Yeah.
Yeah. The stuff that lives in your head lives a full life with you.
Yeah.
It knows where all your weak points are.
Yeah.
It knows exactly where to hit you. So if you don't get yourself pulled together to take that, it's going to win every time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So give yourself grace if you're afraid, but do it scared.
Yeah. Do it scared. Yes. Yes. And And of course, speaking of doing a scared, let's talk about your books. I would love to know more, and I'm sure my audience would love to know more about your series, your world. What are your books about?
Okay, the first series that I ever finished was the Fate Circle Saga. The Fate Circle Saga is the story of, we start out with a king who is 300 years old, and his entire point is he wants to rule the world. But
Cool.
what you find out later is that he's actually cursed to live forever because the person that he was going to rule the world with passed away early in the attempt. And then she gets reborn into the body of somebody else in book 1.
Oh, wow.
So suddenly he's got to deal with the fact that not only is he trying to take over the rest of the world, but now he's got his former flame in somebody else's body that he's trying to acquire as well.
Oh, wow. I love that. That sounds super great.
So that's the first series, and this is the series that if my mother had not decided that she loved the book so much, there would not be a book 2 and 3.
Oh, really?
She read the first book and she sat me down and she said, "Where's the rest of the story?"
Oh, I love that. That's so nice.
And so I wrote books 2 and 3 specifically because I had a story that I still need to finish telling for my mother.
Oh, I love that. And so that series is complete, and
That
you gave it to her?
series is complete and wrapped up, and she wants a book 4, but I refuse to go back.
You're like, we're done. We're done.
We're done now.
That's really sweet. That's awesome.
And
what?
then
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have the She Becomes Death series, which is 3 books and 3 novellas right now. So it's altogether 6 pieces, which I have another 3, maybe 6 books ahead of me in that one.
Oh, I love that.
Depending on if I can wrap it up in 3 books or not.
And just a quick question. So are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm a little bit of both, depending on the project.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, like, with an established world, like the She Becomes Death series, I have to plot that at least a little bit, because I have to pull threads from earlier books in order for you to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So
expensive.
I have to go back and I have to look at things and I have to pull the threads a little bit and I have to do a little bit of weaving in order for that to work. But normally I sit down, especially at nano time, I sit down on day 1 and say, "Okay, guys, give me something."
Just knock it loose.
And just go full bore in whatever direction my brain has decided it wants to go in, starting on day 1.
Nice.
And that's how I got Hush. That's how I got Dark King Rising. That's how I got 13. Like, these are all books that I've written sort of as standalones that have just become their own thing. Like Dark King Rising, the elevator pitch for Dark King Rising is what happens if a writer's imaginary friend becomes real and starts killing people.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna go find your book on Amazon. That one, because you have so many. I was like, which am I gonna choose? Like, okay, that's the one. That's the one I need. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's cool. And that's a standalone.
That is a standalone.
That's awesome. And that one, like you said, like you just sat down and you're like, come on, plot bunnies, let's go.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. No,
Yeah.
did we cover cover another saga? You said you had 3, right? Or
I have two major series and like a bunch of standalones.
cool.
So I've got a bunch of standalones and I've done several anthologies. I think my favorite book that I have that was done by traditional publishing was Alice, which I did with Mocha Memoirs Press. And Alice is the story of what happens if your mom becomes a superhero to save you from the zombies.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a part road trip story, part mother-daughter saga, part there's a Cthulhu-esque monster in it.
That's awesome.
It's a big mashup of stuff, and it's like, I just said, okay, let's do this.
That is so cool. I already, I can foresee that whole journey being like a whole other, like we have to sit down again and be like, let's talk about how this book came to be, because that sounds amazing. And, okay, so then, if we're jumping off just a little bit, so you have different series and you have different standalones. So some of them you kind of plot and some of them you'll just go jumping in. So what's your editing process like?
My editing process has evolved over time, because it used to be that I would just give it a read through, check and make sure that it wasn't egregiously awful in any way, and then I would just publish it.
Yeah.
I've gotten a little more extensive over time, in that now I'll do 2 passes through it. One pass is for making sure that there's no egregious plot holes, and then the second pass is making sure that the language all makes sense.
Yeah, that's important.
Because tense shifts and POV weirdness and head hopping, and I'm terrible at head hopping.
I'm terrible at tense shifts. I'll be present, past, present, past, present, past. I'm like, when did this happen? I totally feel you.
It's what was I doing? Oh, wait, I was doing that.
Yeah. Is she running or was she running? Did she run?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do 2 passes and then it wraps it up.
And that wraps it up for the most part, because I believe in the law of diminishing returns as far as editing is concerned. There's only so much editing I'm willing to do before I realize that I'm just procrastinating on publishing.
Oh, good point. Yeah. That's really cool. I know a lot of people who it's 60 rounds of revision sometimes, Yeah. You're right. Then it's diminishing returns at that point.
Yeah. It's also one of the few downsides I have about working with a group of people in a writer's critique group is that if you are taking too much critique and trying to rebuild your story based on the critique, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your story a disservice. You can't, true, creativity is not really a committee process. And yes, if you are especially very new, you are going to need critique in order to know where your weak points are. But once you know where your weak points are, like the fact that I have a tendency to forget a, and the, because I speak enough of 3 different languages that a, and the occasionally just disappear. So it's okay, since I know that that's one of my weak points, I go back and I look to make sure that anytime I needed one of those, I actually have it.
Yeah.
As opposed to my brain just saying, oh, that's there. No, it's not actually there if it's not there in black and white.
Yeah. So instead of saying, let me find every possible flaw, you're saying, what are my weak points? And let me just go and address that. Because that's where that's what needs improvement. And everything else is sturdy. It's good. It's good to go.
Yeah. A, and the overuse of that,
I do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when I do first person, the word that is in there like 5,700 times, and I'm like, okay, I don't need that, so let's take that out, and take it out, and take it out, and take it out. Oh, wait, it needs to be there.
Got you, yeah.
And then, but no, I don't go through and I try to find every single flaw. That's what editors are for.
Yeah, that's so true.
I mean, you self-edit to get it clean enough to let a new set of eyes look at it. And then once you've let a new set of eyes look at it and they've decided that it's like, okay, this might need to be adjusted. It's one of like Heinlein's old rules used to be that you would only change to editorial request.
Yeah.
So as long as it's clean, you can send it to the editor.
Yeah.
Let them determine whether or not it's not clean.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I do love Heinlein's rules. And going back to that, I don't think I've done an episode on them, but I mean, they're so straightforward. The 5 rules that if you just follow that, you'll feel. I think you will feel more confident because it's simple, straightforward. Write, editorial review. We pretty much then publish to market.
It's like write, finish what you write.
Mm-hmm.
Only change it to editorial review. Keep it out until it publishes.
Right.
And then write the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to what you were saying, you can't just keep going at it. You have to let it go. You have to push it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Allie, this has been very great. I'm like super happy that we touched base. And actually, I feel like your voice is so, it's so inspiring. It's really like, like, hey, just do it. I'm looking forward to seeing, what you're going to be doing, this November. Actually, yeah. What are you doing this November? Do you already know?
I have no idea.
Just going to go for it.
I'm just going to sit down day one and be like, okay, I need 1,667 words.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what comes out.
I love that. Let's go for it. I like that too. Sometimes I'll try to plot and then I'm like, I just can't. It's just too much for me. Yeah.
Well, it's like Preptober is good if that's your thing.
Yeah.
If that's your thing, then yeah, sure, go for it. But if it's not your thing, it just gives you anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Preptober for like all the extra stuff. Like I'm going to go buy myself some extra like pumpkin flavored coffee and some extra candles. That's how I like my Preptober goes. I'm prepping for November. Like it's going to get all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that. So, Allie, this has been an amazing conversation. You're not just inspiring, but I love how you really approach your writing. It's really refreshing, especially I think for my audience here, the audience of the How to Write a Book podcast. Where can people find you and find what you're going to be doing next?
I am on my newsletters on Substack. So I am sistagool.substack.com. And my primary social media is Instagram.
Nice.
Where you can find me at Alledria Hurt.
Awesome. And are there any other notes or anything that we forgot that you want to share? Oh, you know what? You mentioned that you just released the Twitch anthology, I believe. Did you want to also?
Yeah. Warped Lens. Warped Lens is done by me and a couple of other Twitch writers. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do like daytime streaming on Twitch. So you can find The Lady Writes, Kindar, Tellin Artho, sometimes myself. I haven't been on as much as I probably should be lately. And several other people, where we were in a horror anthology that came out in September.
Awesome. And it's called Warped Lens.
Warped Lens.
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 Nice. That's awesome. Congratulations. And congratulations to everyone on there.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Allie. We'll go ahead and wrap this call, but from the How to Write a Book podcast, it's been super lovely to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Mossy.
Definitely. Anytime. And I would love to have you back on again. So thank you. And we'll catch you right after. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the How to Write a Book podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you want to keep up with me and my work, check out the website blackheartedstudios.com. That's www.blackheartedstudios.com. And follow me on Instagram at Massiel Writes. That's at MASSIEL Writes. As a book coach and publisher, I'm passionate about helping aspiring authors bring their stories to life. So if you've been dreaming of writing a book and don't know where to start, head to my website and let's chat. You get a free 30 minutes on me. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.